Threat maps and feeds are essential tools in any security analyst toolkit. So if you're not in the know with those, you should stick around because that conversation starts right now.
You're watching IT Pro TV.
Welcome back to Security Plus here at IT Pro TV. And in today's episode, we are discussing threat maps and threat feeds. Like I said, a very essential piece of kit for any security analyst out there. Wes, you're going to help walk us through these waters. If we've never maybe traversed them before, it could be super helpful for you to give us some insights on this. Let's start off with, what do you say? How about threat maps?
It sounds good too. And this is the one where we're going to have a little bit of definition, but I promise at the end, we'll have a little show and tell to make it a little bit more fun than just, I guess, a knowledge dump of acronyms and stuff here. So let's go ahead and do what Dan said. Let's start out by defining what a threat map is. This is a real-time or near real-time, depending on how much they update it. This is a real-time map. And what does it do? Well, it allows us to get a visualization of threats, where they're coming from, where they're going to, and a lot of the threat maps that you're going to see, at least a couple that I'm going to show you here, are globally. And what's really good is they give you a good visual indicator of really what's going on out there in the wild. So it is a really good way to kind of just see with the various attacks that are happening around the globe. So that, in a nutshell, essentially is what the threat maps are. And I promise you, towards the end of this episode, we'll take a little bit more of a look, so it won't be just a knowledge dump.
All right. Well, now that we've got kind of squared away on threat maps, let's talk about threat feeds and how they differ.
All right, so threat feeds, all right, when we look at threat maps, right, we're taking information in from multiple data sources, multiple data streams, right, and then they're providing a visualization of it that we can view. A threat feed, think of it as more of like an RSS feed, where you're getting that real-time data stream of various information about threats. It isn't necessarily brought into some kind of visualization platform. It literally could be a series of blogs, security blogs, right? That could be a threat feed. One of the ones that is very, very popular out there, if you're in a Windows environment, is the Microsoft Security Research Center. They have one, and it's, obviously based on things like that directly affect Windows systems, but this is essentially where you can get that real-time data stream and find out more information about the threats that are out there in the wild. Things like, for instance, not only the threats, but also the risks that we need to be aware of that are associated with those threats.
All right, now when it comes to these feeds, where do we get that threat feed information? Can you expound a little bit on the idea of threat feed information as well?
Oh, sure. So think about this. We talked about in another episode, we talked about things like domain hijacking, right? If an attacker can get your domain transferred over to their registrar, right, and they can control it, right, essentially what they can do is they could do malicious activity in your name, and that could do something like give you bad domain reputation. So you'll see here that one of the threat feed information example types that we have is domain reputation. If you have domains or namespaces that are known for soliciting like malicious activity, phishing scams, if you will, for distribution of malware, then they're going to be put on a public watch list, and more importantly, they'll be eventually on what's known as a DNS blacklist. And a lot of these threat feed that you'll see will maintain things like DNS blacklist. So domain reputation is one of those. Some of that other information that you might see are known malware, what is out there in the wild that's going on right now. IP addresses. Now you might say, well, wait a second, Wes, what do you mean by IP addresses? We can gain that information, but again, IP address, kind of like the domain reputation. If you have an IP address or even a block of IP addresses that is known as a source of spam, as a source of phishing scams, as distribution of malware, then that information is also going to be in the threat feed, and it allows us to be kind of do some kind of predictive analysis of what's already there, what we're seeing in the wild. So these are just some examples, again, of some of that information that you could find in the threat feeds, and there is a lot more information. These are just some of the high-level commonalities that you see in there.
That's good stuff. I think a lot of this seems a lot like the service virus total. If you've never been a virus total, check that out. It's awesome. They give you the ability to upload files and see if there are known malicious, if it's part of a malicious campaign or a malicious binary. Look at that, or even URLs. Lots of really good information comes out of VirusTotal. So I'm thinking of that as almost like a threat feed that I could use to check for these things, and understanding things like known malware. That is a huge deal, because if I can find that and have access to updates to those, not just through my AV and anti-malware systems, but as something that's coming in, that can be super helpful to me as an analyst. Wes, how can we, and how do we tend to use this information when it comes to things like finding malware on our systems?
Well, a lot of times what it can help is it can help us to, find things like mitigation strategies. We can, essentially, we can create defensive type strategies around things of, like, for instance, things of like indicators of compromise. So for instance, when we look at indicators of compromise, right, that is just pieces of information that help us to identify things like malicious activity. And that a lot of times is data that can be fed right into your SIEM-based systems. To give you an example of things like IOC and indicators of compromise, there is a standardization out there, and that's STIX and TAXI. Be aware of STIX and TAXI. One, just be aware that they really are this standardization approach to how you actually define what are known as indicators of compromise, and then how you communicate that to other sources as a resource. So be aware of indicators of compromise, and if you want a good piece of software, in fact, I'll show it here towards the end, but in context, FireEye has their Redline software out there, and it's a good, it does a lot more than just be able to use IOCs and indicators of compromise, but that's one of the benefits of it, again, is to be able to gather that information so that you can identify those malicious threats out there in the wild.
Now, Wes, when it comes to this information, this cyber threat intelligence, as we like to call it from time to time, how do we get that info from out in the world, from all these organizations that are kind of curating and culminating this info? How do we get that into our systems as a feed or any other mechanism?
Well, there is one technology that was kind of brought in by the federal government, if you will, and that's something known as AIS, or Automated Indicator Sharing. And what this allows us to do is essentially exchange cyber threat indicators, and you can do this with things like, for instance, your federal government. You'll see a couple of terms here. Federal government, we're aware of, right? Could be local, it could be state, and that's really what this one here is. It's also used by what's known as SLTT governments. That's just terminology for state, local, territorial, and tribal governments, as well as being used by the private sector likewise too. And one of the great things about something like automated indicator sharing is that you can share that information really at machine speed, right? Not as fast as humans, or we'd be a little bit slow on the game here, but you can really do this at machine speeds, and that's one of the great things about being able to share this information and do it in almost real time.
And the good news is about a lot of this type of information is that it's information that most people want to put in the hands of your average everyday industry organization or even end user, so that you can better protect yourself from the threats that are out there. And Wes, I know you got a couple of really cool demonstrations of where we can go to kind of get our hands on some of these types of applications or feeds or information that would work toward that end. What do you got for us today?
Sure. So I've got a couple over here. One of the ones that I really like is Kaspersky, and I'm going to show that one at the end. But to it doesn't. That's what I forgot. FireEyes. FireEyes is really cool, but as long as you don't manipulate your web browser too much. And remember, we were talking about these threat maps here. Wow, that's an APT going on there. You can see kind of them that real-time information. You can see where the attacks are kind of coming from and going to. FireEye is an example of one of these, threat maps. Another one that's really big is the Cisco's Talus. This just happens to be Cisco's Talus. I brought this one up. We'll put all these links in there because I got a couple more that I'm not showing just for sake of time, if you will. And then if you want a little bit more information on automated indicator sharing, this is the Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency here, and they've got a lot of good information on automated indicator sharings. And I did mention indicators of compromise, by the way, Dan, too. So Redline, FireEye has Redline, and it is a free utility. We're not getting paid by telling you, hey, download this. But if you want a little bit more information, if you want to, maybe get your feet wet with something like IOC, you can do that right here, likewise too. But what I want to focus on here for a little bit is this Kaspersky. I really like this map.
Super cool.
They have done a really good job, and this one really, woo.
we are down the rabbit hole.
Boy, I tell you what, we are following that attack to its
That's
source.
crazy.
And you look at this, you can do it in real time. So let me go ahead and get out of there before
Yeah,
you guys have
really
to.
cool,
It really is, right? And what's good is they just give you a lot of information here. And you can see, you can actually drill in. If we wanted to drill into the United States, we could do right like that. And we could find a lot more information based on the state or the country as well, too. So a lot of great information
Yeah,
out there.
speaking of great information, there is a bar along the bottom of that. That looked like it had some useful information.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Most definitely. So, we kind of said that you could get this from multiple sources. So this right here, OAS, this is on-access scan. If you just kind of do a little hover to discover, you can kind of figure out what it is. On-access scan, this is when, this is paying attention to things like file systems and documents. When you have a copy operation that goes on, when you have a run operation, a paste operation that goes on, they bring information detecting anomalies, and threats based on that. ODS, this is just on-demand scan. Again, if I kind of hover over, I believe you can see this. Okay, so if I wanted to, or Dan wanted to, and we do antivirus or a threat scan right on our machines right now, right? You can kind of see what it tells you, and it tells you some of the other ones here too. The MAV is mail antivirus scans.
Is this all Kaspersky's information?
This is Kaspersky's, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and there are some that is kind of specific to Kaspersky and their platforms here. This is their anti-spam solution, and that uses their email filtering and stuff. Now, here's one that I really like, and
The one that says bad?
bad. That is right. Now that
It's
is
just bad.
Yeah, it's just bad. That's bad.
You've got this. It's not good.
Yeah, that's actually botnet activity detection, and other ones, vulnerability scans, IDS, intrusion detection scans. And let me see if we can actually find this one. I don't know if I included it or just took it out of there. Oh, nope. I could tell because the botnet scans that I was seeing, I don't see them today. I was telling Dan this before we got started. Last week there was a whole bunch, and boy, they were right off of the coast of Africa here. They weren't even in, they weren't even on
over the
land.
Yeah,
so I was wondering.
Drones flying overhead.
That's right. That's right. And you can usually see them because they kind of stick out like a sore thumb, like stuff like this right here. But anyways, so this gives you an idea of the threat map. Definitely check out the Kaspersky's web map or threat map. Absolutely love it. We'll put the links in there so that you can gain a little bit more information, a little bit more insight to what's going on. But be aware of these threat maps for that Security Plus exam so that when you come across questions like that, you're going to be doing well.
All right. Well, Wes, thanks so much. That was great information. Really cool demonstration of Kaspersky's threat map. So I'm going to go check that out. Hopefully you are as well. Gaining a little more hands-on info, and anytime you can add some context to this kind of information,
Yes.
it really makes it stick home and stay there for you. That being said, we got more in the Security Plus series to come, so we hope to see you then. Until then, have yourself a great day.
Thank you for watching IT Pro TV.